There is a number that gets thrown around in prepper forums, in YouTube comments, and in gun store conversations across the country. That number is around $3,000. That is what most self-described serious preppers spend when they put together what the community calls a proper loadout. An AR-15 with an optic, a quality handgun, a decent shotgun, ammunition for each, storage solutions. And once you add it all up and stare at your credit card statement, you have joined the majority of American preppers who are, statistically speaking, one bad month away from liquidating the whole setup just to make rent. Here is the part nobody in the prepper community wants to say out loud. You do not need $3,000 worth of firearms to be prepared. You never did. And the guns that will actually keep you fed, keep you safe, and keep you functional during a genuine long-term crisis are not the ones filling the comment sections of every tactical YouTube channel. They are the ones sitting in the discount rack at your local gun shop, waiting for someone to look past the brand stigma long enough to read the ballistics data. 7 guns, 7 overlooked, underpriced, and frankly underrespected firearms that experienced preppers consistently skip. And by the time this is over, you are going to understand exactly why skipping them is one of the most expensive mistakes a prepared person can make. Gun number 1. The Hi-Point 995 TS Carbine. Walk into any serious prepper group online and mention the Hi-Point and watch what happens. The responses come fast. Ugly, cheap, plastic, unreliable, garbage. The kind of dismissal that makes it clear most of the people typing have never actually fired one, let alone run one, through a reliability test with 500 rounds of mixed ammunition. The Hi-Point 995 TS is a blowback-operated semi-automatic carbine chambered in 9mm Luger, made in Mansfield, Ohio by a company building affordable firearms since 1992. The street price sits between $280 and $320. For that, you get an 18-inch barrel, a 10-round magazine, a factory Picatinny rail, and a lifetime warranty that covers every component with no questions asked and no proof of purchase required. Buy one at a gun show from a stranger with no paperwork, and Hi-Point will still fix it for free, forever. That is not a marketing claim. It is a documented company policy that owners across the country have used repeatedly. The reliability criticism is the one repeated most often and the one with the least real-world evidence behind it. The blowback operating system is mechanically simple, fewer moving parts than a gas-operated carbine. Field reports from pawn shop owners, recreational shooters, and reviewers who have run these guns in the rain and mud with cheap steel-cased ammunition tell a consistent story. The Hi-Point runs. Not elegantly, but it runs. The prepper case comes down to 3 things. First, the 9mm chambering. In any scenario where you are scavenging for ammunition rather than ordering online, 9mm is the most available pistol cartridge in the country. Police use it. The military uses it. Your neighbors almost certainly have it. Second, part simplicity. No bolt carrier group, no gas tube, no buffer system. You can field strip the entire action on a kitchen table in under 3 minutes with no tools. Third, price. At under $320, you can buy 3 Hi-Point carbines for the cost of one mid-tier AR-15 without an optic. One more thing worth noting. The 9mm carbine configuration also delivers meaningfully better terminal ballistics than a 9mm pistol firing the same ammunition. A 16-inch barrel adds roughly 200 feet per second of muzzle velocity compared to a 4-inch pistol barrel. That velocity increase translates to improved expansion in defensive hollow point loads and a flatter trajectory at distance. You are not just buying a longer gun, you are buying better performance from the same cartridge you are already carrying. The Hi-Point 995 TS is ugly. It is heavy for its size. The magazine capacity is limited. None of that matters when the lights go out, and you need a reliable, ammunition-flexible carbine that works. Gun number 2. The Maverick 88 Pump Shotgun. In 1988, Mossberg created a problem for itself. The Mossberg 500 was already one of the most respected pump-action shotguns in the country, trusted by law enforcement from the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department to rural county sheriffs from Maine to Texas. But the price point had climbed high enough that a significant portion of budget buyers were being priced out. The solution was the Maverick 88. Built in Eagle Pass, Texas, using the same action design as the Mossberg 500, sharing the same barrel threading, and accepting many of the same aftermarket accessories, the Maverick 88 was designed to deliver Mossberg-level reliability at a lower price. It worked. And then the prepper community decided to ignore it for reasons that have almost nothing to do with performance. The Maverick 88 costs between $210 and $240. The Mossberg 500, functionally its mechanical twin, costs between $360 and $450. You are paying an extra $200 for the Mossberg name, a slightly different trigger group position, and a storage stock that runs $40 separately. The barrel, action bar, bolt assembly, magazine tube, and receiver are functionally equivalent between the two guns. Mossberg has never denied this. It is the entire point of the Maverick line. Here is why the 12-gauge pump shotgun belongs in every preparedness setup. It can be loaded with birdshot for small game, buckshot for defensive use at distances up to 40 yards, rifled slugs for single projectile accuracy out to 100 yards. No other single firearm platform offers that range of versatility. The Maverick 88 delivers all of it for $230. The most common criticism is the safety location, which sits in front of the trigger guard rather than on the top tang. This is a real ergonomic difference. It is not a reliability difference. It is not a durability difference. Any shooter manages it in an afternoon at the range. If you cannot afford a Mossberg 500 but need a pump-action 12-gauge, the Maverick 88 is not the compromise option. It is the same option at a lower price. Gun number 3, the Kel-Tec Sub 2000 folding carbine. There is a specific problem every serious prepper eventually confronts. You can build a firearm setup that is extraordinarily capable at home or in a fixed position. The moment you need to carry that setup through variable terrain, the bulk of a full-size carbine becomes a serious liability. The Kel-Tec Sub 2000 was designed to solve that exact problem, and the prepper community has spent 15 years ignoring it because it looks like a science fiction prop from a 1980s television series. The Sub 2000 is a semi-automatic blowback carbine that folds in half along a hinge in the middle of the receiver. Folded, the entire firearm measures 16.5 inches, fits inside a standard laptop bag or backpack without modification, and weighs 4 pounds loaded. Unfold it in 1 second and you have a functioning carbine with a 16-inch barrel and a Picatinny rail. This is not a novelty feature. No other firearm in this price range replicates it, and the implications for a bug-out scenario or vehicle kit are significant. The Sub 2000 is available in configurations accepting Glock 17 or Glock 19 magazines. If you already carry a Glock 9mm pistol, the Sub 2000 draws from the same magazine supply and accepts the same ammunition. Every magazine you carry works in both firearms. That is a logistical advantage that costs nothing extra once you have bought the gun. Street price sits between $400 and $500. The criticisms are legitimate in some areas. The iron sights are modest. The trigger is unremarkable. The polymer construction feels thin compared to a mil-spec lower. These are genuine trade-offs for the folding mechanism and the price. Kel-Tec addressed the single largest complaint, optics mounting during folding, with the Gen 3 update. The Gen 3 allows accessories to stay attached when the gun is folded. The prepper who overlooks the Sub 2000 because it looks unconventional is making an aesthetic judgment about a tool. The prepper carrying one folded in their vehicle bag alongside a Glock 17 has a system that, in terms of logistical coherence and compact capability, is difficult to beat at any price. Gun number 4, the Taurus G3C pistol. Ask someone who bought a Taurus handgun in 1998 what they think of the brand, then ask someone who bought one in 2022. You will get two fundamentally different answers, and the gap represents one of the most significant quality control turnarounds in the modern American handgun market. Taurus of the 1990s had a reputation problem that was, by most accounts, deserved. Inconsistent tolerances, questionable finishes, and warranty service slow enough to develop its own category of internet complaints. The prepper community absorbed those lessons and applied them permanently. Even today, you will find preppers dismissing Taurus based on institutional memory of a company that functionally no longer exists in that form. The Taurus G3C is a subcompact striker-fired polymer pistol in 9mm. It holds 12 rounds, ships with 3 magazines, and retails between $240 and $270. Multiple independent reviewers with no financial relationship to Taurus have documented running the G3C past 5,000 rounds without cleaning and without a malfunction attributable to the firearm. That is not an isolated result. It is a consistent pattern. The trigger reset is short. The grip texture is aggressive without being abrasive. The sights are fully adjustable, which is not standard at this price from any manufacturer. The Taurus lifetime repair policy covers the G3C completely. Free repairs and replacement parts for the life of the firearm for the original purchaser. The 3-magazine retail configuration also means you are not immediately spending $60 to $90 on extra magazines the way you would with a Glock or Smith & Wesson. The old criticisms of Taurus are real historical data. They are not current performance data. The prepper who refuses to evaluate the G3C based on what Taurus was making in 2003 is not doing research. They are repeating received wisdom about a company that has spent 15 years engineering a different reputation, one round at a time. If you are finding this useful, hit subscribe. This channel covers the gap between what the tactical community says you need and what preparedness actually demands every single week. Gun number 5. The Savage Axis II bolt-action rifle. There is a category of survival thinking that gets almost no attention in the prepper community because it conflicts with the dominant tactical narrative. That category is hunting. Long-range precision hunting. The ability to harvest food at distances beyond what a shotgun or pistol-caliber carbine can practically manage. The ability to reach across 300 yards of open field, pull a trigger once, and put meat on a table. For that capability, no platform is more efficient or more mechanically simple than a bolt-action rifle. And for the budget-conscious prepper, the Savage Axis II has been sitting quietly on gun store shelves for years, waiting to be taken seriously. The Savage Axis II is a bolt-action centerfire rifle on an aluminum pillar-bedded synthetic stock with a detachable box magazine and a factory AccuTrigger. Available in 2.23 Remington, 2.43 Winchester, 6.5 Creedmoor, 308 Winchester, 3006 Springfield, and others. It covers every practical hunting and long-range application a prepper might need in North America. Street price sits between $320 and $370 before a scope. Most factory rifles at this price ship with triggers in the 5 to 7 pound pull range. Heavy, mushy, inconsistent. The AccuTrigger on the Axis II is adjustable down to roughly 2.5 pounds with a clean, consistent break that gunsmiths have measured against triggers on rifles costing 3 times as much. With quality ammunition and a $300 scope, the Axis II is capable of sub-minute of angle accuracy at 100 yards. For a $350 rifle, that is not a small thing. A 308 Winchester or 3006. Savage Axis II represents the ability to harvest deer, elk, and large game at distances no other firearm on this list can reliably reach. It represents a defensive capability at ranges where a pistol-caliber carbine becomes marginal. The prepper community's tactical focus has created a blind spot around hunting rifles. A rifle that feeds you for a decade does not photograph as dramatically as a suppressed AR-15 with a thermal optic, but in a prolonged grid-down scenario, it is considerably more valuable. Gun number 6. The SKS rifle. In 1945, Soviet weapons designer Sergei Simonov finalized a semi-automatic carbine that would be produced in quantities exceeding 15 million units across the Soviet Union, China, Yugoslavia, Albania, North Korea, Romania, and several other nations. That carbine was the SKS, chambered in 7.62 by 39 millimeters, the same cartridge later used in the AK-47. It has been in continuous global service for nearly 80 years and has outlasted virtually every criticism leveled against it. Surplus SKS carbines from Chinese, Yugoslav, and Albanian military production are still available on the American secondary market for $350 to $480 depending on condition and origin. For under $500, you get a semi-automatic military carbine with a 10-round fixed magazine, a chrome-lined barrel, a folding bayonet, and a mechanical track record spanning multiple decades of military and civilian use on 4 continents. The prepper community largely ignores the SKS because of what stands next to it in the conversation, the AK-47. The AK has a detachable magazine and carries the cultural weight of being one of the most recognizable firearms in history. Next to that reputation, the SKS looks like a compromise. That comparison misunderstands what the SKS actually is. The fixed 10-round magazine, the feature most often cited as a disadvantage, is in many legal contexts an advantage. Most states that regulate magazine capacity set their limit at 10 rounds, meaning the SKS is legal in standard configuration. in jurisdictions where detachable high-capacity magazines are restricted. There are no magazines to fumble, no proprietary parts to source. Ammunition loads via stripper clips that feed cleanly into the fixed magazine or round by round from a cartridge box. The 7.62 by 39mm cartridge is a proven intermediate power round with combat-effective terminal performance inside 300 yards. The chrome-lined barrel provides corrosion resistance and bore longevity that exceeds what most American rifles offer at this price point. Yugoslav Zastava production. SKS carbines are considered the premium of the surplus market, with tighter tolerances and better fit and finish than Chinese Norinco production. Albanian military examples sit at the budget end, with functional but cosmetically rougher rifles often available under $400. All variants share the same basic action design and the same fundamental reliability reputation. When evaluating a surplus SKS, check the bore condition and the bolt face for erosion. A clean bore and matching numbers on the receiver and stock generally indicate a rifle that has been stored rather than heavily used, and those examples can still be found at patient buyers willing to look. The SKS is not the most tactically flexible firearm on this list. It is not the most modern. It is the semi-automatic military carbine proven in actual field use against actual threats in actual conflict conditions for longer than most preppers have been alive. That track record, available under $500, is worth more than any form opinion about magazine capacity. Gun number 7. The Henry H001 Classic .22 LR Rifle. This is the gun that will generate the most pushback. Not because the criticism is valid, but because the .22 long rifle cartridge has been so thoroughly dismissed by the tactical prepper community that mentioning it as a serious survival tool will get you laughed out of the conversation before you finish your first sentence. Here's the quiet part said clearly. For long-term survival purposes, the .22 LR is the single most practical cartridge in the history of American firearms. And the Henry H001 Classic, a lever-action .22 LR rifle in continuous production in Brooklyn, New York since 1997, is one of the most overlooked survival tools available today for under $350. Start with the ammunition math. A standard brick of 522 LR rounds weighs approximately 2.5 pounds and fits in a space the size of a hardcover novel. The same weight of 223 Remington yields approximately 200 rounds. The same weight of 308 Winchester yields approximately 50 rounds. In a scenario where you are carrying your supplies on your back, that difference is not abstract. It is the difference between a sustainable supply and one that runs out in a week. Bulk .22 LR routinely comes in under 3 cents per round. A $300 ammunition budget buys 10,000 rounds of .22 LR, 700 rounds of 9mm, or 500 rounds of .223. The arithmetic of preparedness favors .22 LR in a way that is genuinely difficult to argue against. The Henry H001 Classic is an 18.5-inch octagon barrel lever action with a tubular magazine holding 15 rounds. The walnut stock is hand-checkered. The rear sight is fully adjustable for windage and elevation. The brass receiver is machined rather than cast. Henry backs it with a lifetime warranty. The lever action mechanism has no detachable magazines to lose, no gas systems to foul, no springs that weaken under high round counts. It operates on the same mechanical principle as lever actions built in the 1870s, a principle robust enough to survive a century and a half of development without fundamental revision. In practical survival terms, the .22 LR is effective on rabbits, squirrels, grouse, and the other small game that represents the most consistent wild protein source in most of North America. At shorter ranges, it is a meaningful defensive deterrent, and the near-silent report of a quality .22 LR rifle is an underappreciated attribute in scenarios where noise discipline matters. The prepper community's dismissal of .22 LR reveals a fundamental confusion about what survival actually requires. Survival is not a firefight at 400 yards. Survival is feeding your family through a supply chain disruption that could last months. The firearm best suited to that task is the one that is always functional, always fed, and capable of harvesting protein with enough accuracy and enough rounds per dollar to remain useful for as long as the situation requires. The Henry H001 in .22 LR, with a dedicated brick of ammunition stored correctly, is the most practical long-term survival firearm on this list. The tactical community will disagree. The people who have actually thought through long-term food sourcing in a grid-down scenario largely do not. 7 guns. Combined retail cost for one of each, purchased today at street prices, sits at approximately $1,900. For that, you have a 9mm carbine, a 12-gauge pump shotgun, a folding 9mm backpack carbine, a subcompact 9mm pistol, a precision bolt-action rifle in a major hunting caliber, a proven surplus semi-automatic military carbine, and a quiet small game harvesting tool with essentially unlimited ammunition supply at minimal cost. Compare that to the standard tactical prepper loadout: an AR-15, a Glock 17 or equivalent, an optic package, and reasonable ammunition for both. That setup, assembled with quality components, costs between $3,000 and $4,000 before you add a shotgun, a hunting rifle, or any of the other tools a complete preparedness battery actually requires. The firearms on this list were dismissed not because they failed performance evaluations. They were dismissed because the prepper community developed a taste for aspirational gear that prioritizes aesthetics, tactical credibility, and brand prestige over the specific functional requirements of the scenarios it claims to be preparing for. A crisis does not care what your firearms look like. It does not care what they retail for. It cares whether you have a reliable tool chambered for available ammunition, capable of being maintained without specialized equipment, accurate enough for the task in front of you, and financially accessible enough that you actually own it rather than planning to buy it someday when the budget allows. That is what the guns on this list are, not the compromise options, not the budget versions of the real thing. The right tools bought for the right reasons, by people who are thinking about survival rather than performing it. If this changed how you look at your current setup, hit subscribe. Every week, this channel covers the gaps between what the tactical community says you need and what the actual functional requirements of preparedness demand. The next video breaks down why the most popular survival knife on the market is one of the worst tools you could actually carry. That video is on screen right now.